Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from, and if this story touches your heart, please subscribe for more incredible stories of courage, loyalty, and justice. The Colorado Rockies in early autumn were a cathedral of gold and crimson, the aspen groves blazing against the deep evergreen of the high country. At 8,500 feet, the air was thin, cold, and so achingly pure it felt like breathing liquid crystal. The small mountain town of Pinewood Ridge clung to the side of a valley like a postcard that refused to fade, its main street a collection of weathered storefronts and family-owned cafes that had survived 3 generations of boom and bust. Marcus Reyes stood on the deck of a rented cabin, his hands wrapped around a mug of black coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. He hadn't noticed. His slate-gray eyes, the kind that had seen too much in places whose names were still classified, stared at the distant peaks without really seeing them. He was 32 years old, built like a middleweight boxer who'd trained with sledgehammers, not bulky but dense, coiled, every muscle serving a purpose. His dark hair was military short, his jaw shadowed with 3 days of stubble that was less a style choice and more evidence that he'd stopped caring about appearances. He was on what the Navy called mandatory psychological leave. What Marcus called it was punishment for staying functional. Beside him, sprawled on the deck with the boneless contentment of an apex predator at rest, was Ranger. The Belgian Malinois was 95 pounds of tan and black muscle, intelligence, and barely contained violence. His ears, even in rest, swiveled like radar dishes, tracking the sounds of the forest, the chatter of a squirrel, the distant cry of a hawk, the whisper of wind through the pines. Ranger had been Marcus's partner for 4 years, through 2 deployments and more classified missions than Marcus was allowed to discuss even with a therapist. The dog wasn't a pet. He was a weapon. He was also the only living thing Marcus trusted completely. "You think this is peaceful, don't you?" Marcus said quietly, not looking at the dog. Ranger's ear flicked toward him, acknowledging the sound, if not the content. "This is what they call recovery. Sit in the woods, breathe clean air, let your nervous system reset." The irony was that Marcus's nervous system had been perfectly calibrated for war. It was peace that felt like malfunction. The silence was too loud. The lack of mission made his hands restless. He'd been stateside for 3 weeks, and every day felt like wearing a suit 2 sizes too small. But he wasn't here just for himself. His phone, face down on the deck railing, buzzed. He glanced at it. A text from Elena, his younger sister. "Working double today. Tips good. Miss you. When can I see you?" He typed back with 1 thumb. "Soon. Stay safe." The response was immediate. "Always. Love you, hermano." Marcus's jaw tightened. Elena was the reason he'd chosen Pinewood Ridge for his leave. She lived here, working as a housekeeper at the Grand Summit Lodge, the town's only 5-star resort. It was a sprawling monument to wealth perched on the mountain above the town, catering to tech CEOs, movie producers, and trust fund families who flew in on private jets to experience authentic mountain living for a weekend. Elena had been here for 2 years, ever since their mother passed. She'd taken the job because it was stable, because it had housing, because she could send money back to their younger brother who was still in college. She was 26, sharp as a whip, and too proud to ever ask Marcus for help. He respected that. He also hated it. A cold nose nudged his hand. Ranger had stood, his body tense, his gaze fixed on the tree line. The dog made no sound, but his posture screamed alert. Marcus's hand went instinctively to his hip, where his sidearm rested in a concealed holster. He scanned the woods with the methodical precision of 1,000 patrols. Nothing. But Ranger didn't give false alerts. Then he saw it. A flash of brown fur, low to the ground, moving with the awkward, loping gait of youth. A fawn, maybe 6 months old, picking its way through the underbrush. Ranger's body relaxed a fraction, but he didn't look away. "Easy," Marcus said, his voice low and calm. "Just a kid. Let it be." Ranger sat, his eyes still tracking the fawn until it disappeared into the golden aspen. Only then did the dog turn his head to look at Marcus, as if to say, "Your call, boss." Marcus allowed himself the ghost of a smile. Good boy. For the first time in 3 weeks, something in his chest loosened just a little. Maybe peace wasn't the absence of war. Maybe it was just this: a cold morning, a loyal dog, and a sister who still believed he was a hero. Elena Reyes moved through the opulent hallway of the Grand Summit Lodge's 5th floor with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd learned to be invisible. Her housekeeping cart rattled softly as she pushed it, the sound muffled by the thick carpet that probably cost more per square foot than her monthly rent. The hallway smelled of fresh linen, expensive candles, and the faint chemical tang of the eco-friendly cleaning products the resort insisted on using. She was small, barely 5'3", with dark hair pulled back in a tight bun and warm brown eyes that carried a permanent mix of determination and exhaustion. Her uniform was crisp, her name tag slightly crooked. She'd been on shift since 6 that morning, and it was now past 2 in the afternoon. Her feet ached, her back ached, but the tips had been good this week, and that was what mattered. In the mesh basket at the bottom of her cart, nestled between spare towels and a caddy of cleaning supplies, was a small wicker carrier. Inside, curled into a tight ball of golden fur, was Sunny. Sunny was a 10-week-old golden retriever puppy, all oversized paws and floppy ears, with eyes like liquid amber. Elena had found him 3 days ago, shivering and alone behind the resort's loading dock, his ribs visible beneath his thin coat. No collar, no chip, just a scared baby who'd been dumped like trash. She'd taken him to the vet on her day off, paying with the tip money she'd been saving for new winter boots. Kennel cough, the vet had said. Dehydration, malnutrition. He needed medicine every 4 hours and constant supervision, or his breathing could collapse. Elena had no family in town except Marcus, who was deliberately keeping his distance to decompress. She had no friends who could take a sick puppy, and she couldn't afford to miss work. So Sunny came with her, hidden in the cart, sedated with the gentlest dose of medication to keep him quiet, bundled in a soft towel. It was against every rule the Grand Summit Lodge had. If she was caught, she'd be fired immediately. But the alternative was watching him die. She'd almost made it through her shift, just 2 more rooms. Elena knocked softly on the door of Suite 512. No answer. She used her master key, propped the door open with the rubber wedge, and began her routine. Strip the bed, check the bathroom, restock the minibar, move like a ghost, leave no trace except perfection. As she worked, she hummed softly, an old song their mother used to sing. Sunny stirred in his carrier, letting out a tiny, muffled whimper. Elena froze, her heart hammering. She moved quickly to the cart, crouching down. "Shh, mi amor," she whispered, slipping her hand through the mesh to stroke his warm head. "Almost done. You're okay. You're safe." Sunny licked her fingers, his tail giving a weak thump. Elena's throat tightened. This puppy, this fragile little life, had become her mission. She didn't have much: a cramped studio apartment in the staff housing, a used car that barely started in winter, a bank account that never had more than 3 digits. But she had Sonny, and she would protect him. She finished the room in record time, checked her watch, and moved to the final suite of the day, the presidential suite, Suite 520. The name on the reservation made her stomach clench: Richard Blackwell. Everyone on staff knew Blackwell. He was a tech CEO from Silicon Valley, worth an estimated $800 million, and he treated the Grand Summit Lodge like his personal kingdom. He came 4 times a year, always demanded the presidential suite, and left a trail of complaints, humiliation, and trauma in his wake. Last month, he'd made a housekeeper cry because the towels weren't aligned correctly. 2 weeks ago, he'd had a bellhop fired for making eye contact. He tipped in single dollars when he tipped at all, and he spoke to staff like they were furniture. Elena took a deep breath. She knocked. No answer. She used her key. The suite was a disaster. Half-eaten room service trays were scattered across the marble coffee table. Wet towels were thrown on the floor. The bed looked like a battlefield. And in the center of the living room, staring at his phone, with the dead-eyed focus of a man who'd forgotten other humans existed, sat Richard Blackwell. He was in his mid-40s, expensively thin in the way that came from personal trainers and chef-prepared meals. His hair was silver at the temples. His suit probably cost more than Elena's car, and his eyes were the cold blue of a frozen lake. He didn't look up. Elena swallowed her dread and began to work. Richard Blackwell was having what he would describe, if asked, as an annoying day. His company's stock had dropped 2% after a product launch that was merely successful instead of revolutionary. His ex-wife's lawyer had sent another email about child support, as if $50,000 a month wasn't enough, and the Grand Summit Lodge, which he paid a premium to enjoy, was infested with incompetent staff. Case in point, the small, mousy woman who had just entered his suite and was now making an irritating amount of noise with her cleaning cart. He didn't look up from his phone. He was in the middle of a crucial text exchange with his board of directors, explaining why the failed launch was actually the marketing team's fault and not his vision. The maid, he didn't bother to learn their names, should know to be silent. "Excuse me," he said, his voice sharp and cold. "Do you have to make so much noise?" Elena froze mid-reach, a stack of fresh towels in her hands. "I'm sorry, sir. I'll be quieter." "You'll be quieter?" Blackwell finally looked up, his expression one of theatrical disbelief. "That's your solution? How about you come back later when I'm not here?" "Sir, I was told this room needed to be serviced before 3. If you'd prefer—" "I don't prefer anything," he interrupted, standing up. "I pay for this suite. You work here. Those are not equivalent positions. Do you understand that?" Elena's jaw tightened, but she nodded. "Yes, sir. I'll come back." She turned to leave, but in her haste, her cart caught on the corner of the ornate area rug. It lurched. The wicker carrier at the bottom shifted, and from inside came a sound that made Elena's blood turn to ice, a tiny, high-pitched yip. Blackwell's head snapped toward the cart. "What was that?" "Nothing, sir. Just the cart. It squeaks." That wasn't a squeak. He walked toward her, his eyes narrowing. That was an animal. "Sir, He shoved past her and yanked the wicker carrier out of the cart. Sonny, startled awake, let out a confused whimper, his big puppy eyes blinking up at the stranger. Blackwell's face twisted into something between disgust and rage. "You brought a dog into my suite?" "He's not in your suite, sir. He's in my cart. He's sick. I had no choice." "You had no choice?" Blackwell's voice rose, sharp enough to cut. You had the choice not to bring a filthy animal into a 5-star resort. Do you have any idea how many health codes you're violating? Elena reached for the carrier. Please, sir. He's just a baby. He's not hurting anyone. Blackwell jerked the carrier away, holding it at arm's length like it was contaminated. Sonny yelped, terrified, scrabbling against the mesh. This is unacceptable. You're fired, and I'm calling the health department to have this animal removed. No. Elena's voice cracked. Please, please, I need this job. He'll die if he goes to a shelter. Please, not my problem. Blackwell turned and hurled the wicker carrier across the room. CTA or 1. Insert after this point. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. Time seemed to slow. Elena watched the carrier tumble through the air, watched Sonny's small body slam against the mesh sides. The carrier hit the wall with a sickening crack, the wicker splintering. The door popped open. Sonny tumbled out onto the floor, dazed and whimpering. Elena screamed and lunged forward, throwing herself between the puppy and Blackwell. She scooped Sonny into her arms, curling her body over him protectively. Stop! Please stop! Blackwell stared down at her, his face a mask of cold contempt. Pathetic. And then he raised his foot, clad in a $900 Italian leather shoe, and brought it down hard on Elena's shoulder. The impact was brutal. Elena cried out, her body jerking as pain exploded down her arm. She clutched Sonny tighter, refusing to let go, her forehead pressed against the carpet. Blackwell raised his foot again. He never got the chance to bring it down. The door to the suite, which Elena had left propped open with the wedge, suddenly filled with a presence that changed the air pressure in the room. Marcus Reyes had arrived. Marcus had been in the lodge's lobby when his phone buzzed. Not a call, not a text, something else, a gut instinct so sharp it felt like a blade between his ribs. He'd learned to trust that instinct. It had saved his life in Kandahar, in Mosul, and a dozen other places he couldn't name. He'd asked the front desk where Elena was working today. 5th floor. He'd taken the stairs, 3 at a time, Ranger at his heels, the dog sensing his urgency and matching it. Now, standing in the doorway of the Suite 520, Marcus Reyes took in the scene with the cold, instant clarity of a man trained to assess threats in fractions of a second. His sister, on the floor, curled over something small and golden, her shoulder twisted at an angle that screamed injury. A man in an expensive suit standing over her, his foot raised. Marcus didn't think. Thinking was for later. He moved. To be continued in next message due to length. Would you like me to continue generating the complete 13,000-word script? I'll proceed through all 15 sections with the remaining content, maintaining the emotional intensity, tactical detail, and CTAs at the specified points. I'll continue generating your complete 13,000-word script now, picking up exactly where we left off. Marcus crossed the distance to his sister in 3 strides. His hand shot out and clamped around Blackwell's ankle mid-swing, stopping the kick with such sudden force that the CEO stumbled backward, his eyes going wide with shock. Who the hell are you? Marcus didn't answer. He was already moving past Blackwell, kneeling beside Elena. His hands, so capable of violence, were impossibly gentle as they touched her shoulder. Elena, are you hurt? She looked up at him, her eyes swimming with tears. Marcus, are you hurt? Each word was clipped, precise, a barely controlled storm. My shoulder. He threw Sonny. He kicked me." She was shaking, clutching the puppy so tightly the little dog whimpered. Marcus's jaw turned to granite. He stood slowly, turning to face Richard Blackwell. The transformation was immediate and terrifying. The tired man seeking peace was gone. In his place stood a Navy SEAL operator, a weapon of surgical precision wrapped in human skin. "You just made a mistake," Marcus said, his voice low and absolutely calm. Blackwell, recovering his composure, drew himself up to his full height. He was used to intimidating people with money, with power, with lawyers. "I don't know who you are, but you need to leave. Now, before I have security throw you out." "Security," Marcus repeated, as if tasting the word. "You want to call security because you assaulted my sister and threw a puppy against a wall. You're—" Blackwell's face twisted with contempt. "I should have known. More staff trash. Get out, both of you. Before I—" He reached for the hotel phone on the desk. Ranger, who had been standing perfectly still in the doorway, let out a low, rumbling growl that seemed to vibrate the air itself. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It was the sound of a predator announcing that the prey had been marked. Blackwell's hand froze 6 inches from the phone. "That's Ranger," Marcus said conversationally. "Belgian Malinois, 95 pounds, military working dog. He's trained to subdue high-value targets. On my command, he can close the distance between that doorway and your throat in less than 2 seconds. Would you like a demonstration?" Blackwell's face had gone pale. "You're threatening me? Do you have any idea who I am?" "I know exactly what you are." Marcus took a single step forward. "You're a bully. You're used to hurting people who can't fight back, firing them, humiliating them. And when that's not enough, you get physical. I didn't. She brought an animal into my suite. I have every right. You have the right to contact management. You have the right to file a complaint. You do not have the right to assault anyone." Marcus's voice dropped even lower. "And you definitely don't have the right to hurt my family." Behind them, Elena was trying to stand, cradling Sonny. Marcus put out a hand, not looking at her. "Stay down, Elena. Let me see the puppy." She hesitated, then carefully passed Sonny to him. Marcus cradled the tiny dog in one large hand, his fingers gentle as they probed for injuries. Sonny whimpered, his breathing ragged. Marcus's expression darkened. "He's hurt. Possible rib damage. Definitely traumatized." He looked at Blackwell. "You threw a sick puppy across a room because you were inconvenienced." "It's a dog," Blackwell spat, trying to regain his arrogance. "Not a person. And your sister violated multiple health codes bringing it here. I could sue this resort. I could sue her." Marcus carefully handed Sonny back to Elena. Then he turned to face Blackwell fully, and something in his posture made the CEO take an involuntary step backward. "Here's what's going to happen," Marcus said. "You're going to apologize to my sister. You're going to pay for the puppy's vet bills. And then you're going to leave this resort and never come back." Blackwell laughed, a short, ugly sound. "Or what? You'll have your dog attack me? That's assault. I'll have you arrested. I'll sue you for everything you—" He didn't see Marcus move. One moment, Marcus was standing 3 feet away. The next, he was inside Blackwell's personal space, his hand wrapped around the CEO's wrist in a grip that made Blackwell gasp. "I'm not going to have my dog do anything," Marcus said softly. "I'm going to give you one chance to do the right thing. Just one. Because I'm trying very hard to be a better man than I was 6 months ago. But if you refuse, if you threaten my sister again, if you so much as look at her wrong—" He applied pressure, just enough for Blackwell to feel the strength in his grip, the absolute control. "I will make sure everyone knows exactly what you did here. The video from the hallway camera caught everything. The assault, the animal cruelty. I'll make sure it's on every news outlet, every social media platform. I'll make sure your investors see it, your board, your children." Blackwell's face had gone from pale to red. "You're bluffing. There's no camera. Suite 520, north hallway, ceiling mount, right outside your door. You walked past it 6 times today and never noticed." Marcus released his wrist, stepping back. "So, what's it going to be?" For a long moment, Richard Blackwell stood frozen, his mind clearly racing through options, calculations, consequences. He was a man used to winning, used to controlling narratives, used to having the last word. But standing in front of Marcus Reyes, he realized with dawning horror that he'd finally encountered someone he couldn't intimidate, couldn't buy, and couldn't break. His mistake wasn't attacking a maid. His mistake was attacking this maid's brother. I'll pay for the vet," Blackwell said, his voice tight. And I apologize to your sister." Marcus didn't move. "Say it to her, not to me." Blackwell turned, his jaw working. Elena was standing now, Sonny held protectively against her chest. "I apologize for my behavior. It was hollow, forced, and utterly insincere, but it was compliance." Marcus nodded slowly. "Security will be here in about 90 seconds. I called them from the hallway. You're going to tell them this was all a misunderstanding. You're going to check out, and you're going to leave a $5,000 tip for Elena at the front desk for her exceptional service. Do we understand each other?" Blackwell's mouth opened, rage flickering in his eyes. Ranger growled again, louder this time. "Yes," Blackwell hissed, "we understand each other." The aftermath unfolded with the mechanical precision of a choreographed dance. Security arrived, 2 young men in blazers who looked thoroughly confused by the scene. A wealthy guest standing rigid and pale, a housekeeper clutching a puppy, and a dangerous-looking stranger with a military dog who radiated the kind of authority that made people instinctively defer. Marcus did all the talking. He was calm, clear, and utterly convincing. "Mr. Blackwell had a minor medical episode, low blood sugar. He's fine now, but he's decided to check out early for personal reasons. My sister was assisting him. Everything's resolved." The security guards looked at Blackwell, who managed a tight nod. "That's correct. Personal emergency. I need to leave immediately." One guard radioed the front desk while the other escorted Blackwell out. The CEO shot Marcus one final look, pure hatred mixed with fear, before disappearing down the hallway. The moment they were gone, Elena's legs gave out. Marcus caught her, easing her onto the suite sofa. Ranger immediately moved to her side, pressing his warm bulk against her leg in a gesture of comfort that was remarkably gentle for a dog trained to take down armed combatants. "Let me see your shoulder," Marcus said, his voice soft now, the operator mask slipping to reveal the worried brother beneath. Elena winced as he carefully probed the joint. "I'm okay. It's just bruised." "He kicked you, Elena." Marcus's voice was tight with barely suppressed rage. "He physically assaulted you." "I know." She looked down at Sonny, who was curled in her lap, his small body trembling. "But he hurt Sonny worse. Marcus, what if he'd killed him? What if—" Her voice broke. The adrenaline was crashing now, leaving behind shock and delayed terror. Marcus pulled her into a careful hug. mindful of her injured shoulder. He didn't. You protected him. You did good, Elena. You did exactly right. I'm going to lose my job, she whispered against his shoulder. They'll fire me for bringing Sonny. No one's firing you. Marcus's voice was steel. I made very sure of that. He pulled back, meeting her eyes. That hallway camera, it's real, and I have a friend who's very good with technology. We're going to get that footage. If they try to fire you, we'll have evidence of what really happened. Assault, animal cruelty, abuse of power. Blackwell's lawyers won't want that fight. Elena stared at him. You planned this, the whole thing. You knew the camera was there. I noticed it when I came up the stairs. Old habit. He allowed himself a small, grim smile. You learned to spot surveillance. For the first time since the nightmare began, Elena laughed, a short, shaky sound. My brother, the SEAL. Your brother, who's taken you and Sonny to the emergency vet right now. Marcus stood, offering her his hand. Can you walk? Yes, I think so. They made it to the hallway before Elena stopped, her hand on Marcus's arm. Wait, the $5,000 tip. Did you really make him? I did, and he will, because if he doesn't, that video goes live. Marcus looked at his sister, his expression softening. You've been working yourself to death to send money to Mateo, to keep a roof over your head to survive. $5,000 isn't justice, Elena, but it's a start. They took the service elevator down, avoiding the main lobby. In the staff parking lot, Marcus loaded Elena and Sonny into his truck, while Ranger hopped into the back seat, his intelligent eyes tracking every movement. As they drove down the mountain toward town, Elena finally asked the question that had been hovering between them. How did you know? How did you know to come to that room? Marcus was quiet for a long moment, his hands steady on the wheel. I didn't. Not exactly. I just felt something was wrong. I've learned to trust that feeling. Your instinct. Yeah. Elena reached over and squeezed his hand. Thank God for your instinct. They drove the rest of the way in comfortable silence, broken only by Sonny's occasional whimper and Ranger's reassuring presence. But in Marcus's mind, gears were already turning. Richard Blackwell was rich. He was connected. He was vengeful. Men like that didn't just slink away. They retaliated. Marcus needed to be ready. The emergency veterinary clinic in Pinewood Ridge was a small brick building tucked behind the main street, run by Dr. Sarah Chen, a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who'd been treating animals in the mountains for 30 years. She took one look at Sonny and immediately ushered them into an exam room. Elena sat in a plastic chair, exhausted and shaking, while Dr. Chen performed a thorough examination. Marcus stood by the door, Ranger at his side, both of them watchful and alert. 2 cracked ribs, Dr. Chen announced after 20 minutes. Severe bruising, but no internal bleeding. He's a lucky little guy. She looked at Elena, her expression softening. What happened? Someone threw him, Elena said quietly, against a wall. Dr. Chen's jaw tightened. I see. Well, he'll need pain medication, restricted movement for 2 weeks, and very close monitoring. He's going to be okay, but this could have been so much worse. She handed Elena a bottle of pills. 1 dose every 8 hours, and I want to see him back here in 3 days. How much do I owe you? Elena asked, reaching for her purse with her good arm. Nothing. Dr. Chen nodded toward Marcus. Your brother already took care of it, and he gave me a very generous donation to the clinic's rescue fund. Elena turned to Marcus, her eyes filling with tears again. Marcus, you didn't have to. Yes, I did. His voice was firm but gentle. Family takes care of family. They drove back to Elena's small apartment in the staff housing complex, a cluster of modest buildings behind the resort. Marcus insisted on carrying Sonny up the stairs while Elena fumbled with her keys. Ranger, ever vigilant, checked each corner of the hallway before allowing them to proceed. Inside, the apartment was exactly what Marcus expected. Spotlessly clean, sparsely furnished, every object carefully maintained. A single photo on the mantel showed their mother, Elena, Marcus in his dress blues, and their younger brother, Mateo. A family that had been scattered by necessity but held together by love. Marcus settled Sonny into a nest of blankets on the couch, while Elena sank into the kitchen chair, her adrenaline finally gone. "Stay here tonight," Marcus said. "I'll sleep on the floor. Ranger will keep watch." "Marcus, you don't have to." "Yes, I do." He pulled out his phone. "And tomorrow we're going to make sure this doesn't blow back on you." "What do you mean?" "Blackwell is a predator. Predators don't like losing. He's going to try something." Marcus was already texting someone, his thumbs moving rapidly. "I'm calling in a favor. Someone who can help." "Help how?" Marcus looked at his sister, his gray eyes steady and utterly calm. "By making sure Richard Blackwell understands that some people fight back." Richard Blackwell did not sleep that night. He sat in the leather chair of his private jet, parked at the small regional airport, nursing a scotch and replaying the humiliation over and over in his mind. He'd been threatened, physically intimidated, forced to apologize to a maid, made to pay $5,000 like some kind of criminal making restitution. It was intolerable. By dawn, he'd made 6 phone calls. The first was to his head of security, a former police detective named Vincent Krause. The second was to his lawyer. The third was to a private investigator. "I want everything on him," Blackwell growled into the phone. "The brother, military records, social security number, where he lives. I want dirt, something I can use." "Sir," his lawyer said carefully, "if there's evidence of an altercation, maybe we should—" "I don't pay you to give me cautious advice. I pay you to win. Find me leverage." By noon, the reports were coming in. Marcus Reyes, age 32, Navy SEAL, decorated, currently on psychological leave. Current address, a rental cabin outside Pinewood Ridge. Blackwell smiled for the first time in 12 hours. Psychological leave. That meant unstable. That meant vulnerable. That meant he could be painted as a dangerous, volatile veteran who'd threatened a civilian. He called Krause back. "I want him gone. I don't care how. File complaints. Talk to local police. Make him understand that he picked the wrong enemy. Mr. Blackwell, if he's active military, I don't care if he's the Secretary of Defense. I want him gone." But Richard Blackwell, for all his money and arrogance, had made a fundamental error in judgment. He thought Marcus was alone. He was very, very wrong. Marcus's favor arrived at CO 900 hours the next morning in the form of a dusty Jeep Cherokee that pulled up to his cabin. Out stepped Danny Ghost Cortez, Marcus's teammate, and one of the most talented communications and surveillance specialists in the Navy. Danny was lean, wiry, with sharp features and eyes that never stopped moving. He carried 2 duffel bags that clinked with equipment. "You called?" Danny said, his voice dry. "And here, I thought you were on vacation, hermano." "Change of plans." Marcus clasped his friend's hand. "Thanks for coming. You said your sister was in trouble. I wasn't going to say no." Danny looked at Ranger, who was sitting at attention. "How's the furball?" Ranger's tail wagged exactly once. "He missed you too," Marcus said. "Come on, we need to set up." For the next 3 hours, Danny transformed Marcus's cabin into a digital fortress. He placed motion sensors in the woods, hacked into the Grand Summit Lodge's security system to pull the hallway footage, and set up encrypted communications. "This Blackwell guy," Danny said, scanning through financial records on his laptop, "is connected, real connected. Tech industry, political donors, sits on 3 corporate boards. He's got lawyers on retainer who specialize in crushing lawsuits before they start. Can you find dirt on a billionaire CEO, please?" Danny's fingers flew across the keyboard. "Already found 2 sexual harassment settlements his company paid out, 3 NDAs with former employees, and, oh, this is interesting, he's currently under SEC investigation for insider trading. Nothing public yet, but the paperwork's there." Marcus leaned over Danny's shoulder. "Can we use it?" "If we're smart about it." Danny pulled up another window. "But here's the thing. Guys like Blackwell don't fight fair. If he's already making moves, it's going to be legal pressure first. Complaints, restraining orders. He'll try to paint you as unstable. I am on psych leave, which he'll weaponize." Danny looked at him. "We need to flip the script, make him the aggressor, make him the threat, and we need to do it before he locks you up in legal hell." A soft buzz from Danny's equipment made them both freeze. One of the motion sensors had been triggered. Marcus moved to the window, his hand instinctively going to his sidearm. Ranger was already at the door, body tense. Through the trees, Marcus saw a black SUV slowly rolling down the dirt road toward his cabin. "We've got company," he said quietly. The SUV stopped 50 yards from the cabin. 2 men got out. Vincent Krause, Blackwell's head of security, and a second man in an ill-fitting suit who had "Private Investigator" written all over him. They didn't approach. They just stood there, visible and obvious, taking photos of the cabin with a long-lens camera. "Surveillance," Danny said flatly. "They're documenting, building a case that you're some kind of threat." Marcus's jaw tightened. "They're on public access road. They're not breaking any laws." "No, but they're trying to provoke you." Danny was already setting up a camera of his own. "Classic intimidation. They want you to confront them, give them evidence you're aggressive." Marcus watched the 2 men for a long moment. Every instinct screamed at him to walk out there and make them leave. But that's exactly what they wanted. "So, we don't give them what they want," Marcus said. "We give them something else." He pulled out his phone and made a call. "Sheriff's office? Yes, I'd like to report suspicious activity. 2 men in a black SUV parked on Mountain View Road, taking photographs of a private residence. Possible stalking or harassment. Could you send a deputy?" Danny grinned. "I like the way you think." Within 20 minutes, a sheriff's deputy, a young woman named Officer Ramirez, pulled up in a cruiser. She talked to Krause and his associate, checked their IDs, and made them explain their presence. Marcus couldn't hear the conversation, but he didn't need to. The body language told the story. Krause was defensive. The deputy was skeptical. After 10 minutes, she sent them on their way. Ramirez drove up to the cabin and got out. "Mr. Reyes, I'm Officer Ramirez. Those men said they were hired by Richard Blackwell to conduct surveillance on you. Is there a dispute I should know about?" Marcus kept his tone respectful and calm. "There was an incident yesterday at the Grand Summit Lodge. Mr. Blackwell assaulted my sister, who works there. I intervened. He's apparently unhappy about that." Ramirez's expression shifted. Your sister was assaulted? Yes, ma'am. We have video evidence from the resort security cameras. My sister chose not to press charges, but Blackwell seems to think I'm a threat now. Ramirez made a note. I see. Well, those men weren't breaking any laws by being on a public road, but I've documented the incident. If they come back, or if this escalates, please call us immediately. And if you have that video evidence, you might want to file a report after all. Assault is a serious crime. Thank you, officer. I appreciate your help. After she left, Danny turned to Marcus. That was smart. Now there's a police record that he's the one doing surveillance. Flips the narrative. It's not enough, Marcus said. He's going to keep pushing. He's not used to losing. Then we make him lose harder. Danny pulled up a new screen. I've got the hotel footage. I've got his financial dirt. What I need to know is, how far are you willing to go? Marcus looked at his friend, his expression grim. As far as it takes to protect my sister. The counterattack came from an unexpected direction. At 3:00 p.m., Elena received a call at work from the Grand Summit Lodge's general manager, Mr. Peterson, a stiff, nervous man who'd spent 30 years in hospitality and had never dealt with anything like this. Miss Reyes, I need you to come to my office immediately. Elena's stomach dropped. This was it. She was being fired. Despite Marcus's assurances, despite everything, Blackwell had won. She knocked on Peterson's door 10 minutes later, her heart hammering. Come in. Sit down. Elena sat, preparing for the worst. Peterson cleared his throat. I've received several communications today from Mr. Richard Blackwell's legal team. They're demanding your immediate termination. They're threatening to sue the resort for allowing unsafe working conditions. They've filed complaints with the health department about your bringing an animal onto the premises. Elena's vision blurred. Mr. Peterson, I can explain. He held up a hand. I'm not finished. I also received this morning. He turned his computer screen toward her. On the screen was a high-definition video. The hallway outside suite 520. Time stamped from yesterday. It showed Blackwell throwing the puppy carrier. It showed him kicking Elena. It showed Marcus intervening with remarkable restraint. Your brother sent this to me, Peterson said quietly, along with a very detailed legal letter explaining that if I terminated your employment, I would be personally liable for retaliatory termination of an assault victim. He also suggested that if Mr. Blackwell continues to harass you, the video would be released to every major news outlet, along with documentation of Blackwell's other indiscretions. Elena stared at the screen, tears welling in her eyes. I didn't know Marcus did that. Miss Reyes, your brother is extremely thorough. Peterson's expression softened. And, for what it's worth, I'm horrified by what I saw. Mr. Blackwell is a valued guest, but no guest has the right to assault our staff. You're not being terminated. In fact, I'm moving you to day shift supervisor, with a raise. Elena couldn't speak. She just nodded, overwhelmed. And one more thing, Peterson added. Mr. Blackwell is permanently banned from this property. His membership has been revoked. If he returns, he'll be arrested for trespassing. At the cabin, Marcus's phone rang. Elena's voice was thick with tears. Marcus, what did you do? I made sure you were protected. They promoted me. And Blackwell can never come back. Good. Marcus's voice was calm, but there was satisfaction beneath it. That's how it should be. How did you, the video, the letter, I have talented friends, and I told you, family takes care of family. Elena was crying openly now, relief and gratitude flooding through her. Thank you so much. You don't have to thank me. Just take care of yourself and Sonny. I will. I love you, hermano. Love you too." Marcus hung up and turned to Danny, who was monitoring several screens. "Blackwell's going to escalate now. He just lost the employment angle." "Yup." Danny pointed to one screen. "And look, his private investigator just filed a request for your military records. He's trying to find something to discredit you." "He won't find anything." "I know, which means he's going to get desperate." Danny looked at Marcus. "Desperate men make mistakes. We just need to be ready." Ranger, who'd been lying by the fireplace, suddenly lifted his head. His ears swiveled forward, and a low growl rumbled in his chest. Marcus and Danny exchanged a look. They moved to the window. Down the dirt road, not in an SUV this time but on foot, was Vincent Krause. He was alone, hands visible, moving cautiously toward the cabin. "Bold," Danny muttered, "or stupid." Marcus opened the door and stepped onto the porch, Ranger at his side. "That's close enough." Krause stopped 20 feet away. "Mr. Reyes, I'm not here for trouble. I'm here to deliver a message." "Then deliver it." Krause looked uncomfortable. "My employer is very unhappy with the current situation. He asked me to inform you that if you do not retract your statements, remove the video from circulation, and sign a mutual non-disclosure agreement, he will pursue legal action for defamation, harassment, and intimidation." Marcus stared at him for a long moment. "Your employer assaulted my sister and abused an animal. That's documented. That's factual. You can't defame someone by telling the truth. Mr. Blackwell contends that the video is misleading, that your sister provoked—" "Stop." Marcus's voice was quiet, but it cut through the air like a blade. "You and I both know that's a lie. You saw the video. You know what he did. So here's my message for your employer." Marcus descended the porch steps slowly, deliberately. Ranger moved with him, a shadow of muscle and menace. "Tell Richard Blackwell that he had a choice. He could have walked away. He could have accepted consequences. Instead, he chose intimidation. He chose escalation. And now he's going to learn what happens when you pick a fight with someone who actually knows how to fight back." Marcus stopped 5 feet from Krause. "I'm a Navy SEAL. Do you know what that means?" Krause swallowed hard. "Yes." "No, I don't think you do. It means I've operated in places you can't pronounce. It means I've dismantled terrorist networks with a 5-man team and a satellite phone. It means when someone threatens my family, I don't call lawyers, I end the threat." Marcus's voice dropped even lower. "I didn't want this. I came here for peace, but your employer took that choice away from me. So now he's going to deal with me, the real me. And I promise you, Mr. Krause, he is not prepared." Krause took an involuntary step backward. "Are you threatening—" "I'm not threatening anyone. I'm explaining reality. Go back and tell your boss that if he continues this harassment, the video goes public. If he retaliates against my sister in any way, the video goes public. If he even thinks about escalating, the video goes public along with every piece of dirt we've dug up on him. And trust me, we've dug deep." Krause's face had gone pale. He nodded once, turned, and walked quickly back down the road. Danny appeared in the doorway. "That was a hell of a speech." "It was the truth." Marcus looked at his friend. "He's not going to stop. Men like Blackwell don't understand boundaries. They only understand force." "So, what's next?" Marcus looked out at the mountains, the golden aspens glowing in the late afternoon sun. "Next, we make sure he can't hurt anyone ever again. That evening, Marcus insisted on taking Elena to dinner at a small family restaurant in town. She protested. She was exhausted, her shoulder ached, and Sonny needed constant care. But Marcus was insistent. "You need to eat something that's not ramen," he said firmly. "And Sonny will be fine. Danny's at your apartment keeping watch. That dog is in better hands than 90% of human children." They sat in a corner booth, Ranger lying quietly beneath the table. Elena picked at her enchiladas, her mind clearly elsewhere. "You're worried," Marcus said. "Of course I'm worried. He's powerful, Marcus. What if he comes after you? What if he can't touch me?" Marcus's voice was calm, certain. "I'm a federal employee. I'm protected by military regulations and anti-retaliation laws. The moment he tries something, he's facing federal charges. But, Elena, look at me." She met his eyes. "I've been in situations where my life hung on split-second decisions, where my team was outnumbered and outgunned and we still completed the mission. This, a rich guy with hurt feelings, this is not even close to the hardest thing I've ever dealt with." Elena's lips twitched. "When did you get so confident?" "I've always been confident. I'm just usually better at hiding it." He reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "You're safe. I promise." As they ate, Marcus outlined the plan. Danny had secured the digital evidence. They had multiple copies of the video stored in encrypted locations. They'd documented every intimidation attempt Blackwell had made. And they'd quietly sent a comprehensive file to 3 journalists who specialized in exposing corporate misconduct. "We're not releasing anything yet," Marcus explained, "but it's ready. The moment Blackwell steps out of line, it goes live. He knows that now. His own security chief knows it. His lawyers know it. He's boxed in. What if he tries something anyway? Then we destroy him." Marcus's voice was matter-of-fact. "Legally, publicly, completely. And then I call some friends who know how to make sure the SEC investigation into his insider trading gets bumped up the priority list." Elena stared at her brother. "You've been busy." "I had a good teacher." Marcus smiled. "Mom always said, protect the ones you love. Never start a fight, but always finish it." "I miss her," Elena said softly. "Me too." They finished dinner in comfortable silence. As they walked to the truck, Elena stopped, looking up at the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. "Marcus, thank you for everything, for coming when I needed you, for not making me feel weak. You're not weak. You're the strongest person I know." He opened the truck door for her. "You raised Mateo when I was deployed. You've worked 3 jobs to keep food on the table. You protected a puppy even when it cost you everything. That's not weakness, Elena. That's courage." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "I don't feel courageous. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing the right thing even when you're terrified." Marcus helped her into the truck. "You did that. You've always done that." As they drove back toward town, Marcus's phone buzzed. A text from Danny. "We've got a problem. Blackwell just landed at the regional airport. He's back." Marcus's jaw tightened. So the CEO hadn't learned his lesson after all. This was about to get worse before it got better. Richard Blackwell had spent the past 24 hours in a state of cold, calculating rage. He'd been humiliated. He'd been threatened. He'd been forced to retreat by a nobody in a flannel shirt with a military dog. It was unacceptable. But more than that, it was dangerous. The video that Marcus Reyes had threatened to release wasn't just embarrassing. It was potentially ruinous. If it went viral, If his investors saw him kicking a woman, throwing a puppy, it could tank his company's stock. It could derail the merger he'd been negotiating for 8 months. It could destroy everything he'd built. So Blackwell had called in reinforcements. At 8:00 p.m., he met with 4 men in a private conference room at the regional airport. The first was his lawyer, Martin Shaw, a shark in a $5,000 suit. The second was Vincent Krause. The third was a crisis management consultant named Angela Stern, whose specialty was burying scandals before they exploded. The fourth was someone Blackwell had never worked with before, but who came highly recommended by certain dark corners of his network, a man who introduced himself only as Mr. Gray. Mr. Gray was nondescript, middle-aged, with the kind of face you'd forget 30 seconds after seeing it. But his eyes were cold, assessing, and when he spoke, his voice carried the quiet authority of someone used to being obeyed. "You have a problem," Gray said, not as a question, but as a statement. "A military operator who has evidence of assault and is using it as leverage. You need that evidence destroyed and the operator neutralized. Legally, preferably. But, if necessary—" "I don't want him killed," Blackwell said quickly. He was ruthless, not stupid. "I want him discredited, arrested, destroyed professionally, but not killed." Gray tilted his head. "That limits our options, but it's workable. Tell me about him." For the next hour, they dissected Marcus Reyes, his military record, his current status on psychological leave, his sister, his history. "Psychological leave is key," Angela Stern said, tapping her tablet. "We paint him as unstable, a traumatized veteran who's become fixated on your supposed assault of his sister. We get testimonies from hotel staff that he was aggressive, threatening. We file for a restraining order, claiming you fear for your safety." "And the video?" Blackwell demanded. "We argue it's been edited, taken out of context," Shaw said. "We file a motion to suppress it pending investigation. It'll buy time." "Not enough," Gray said quietly. "The video's damning. No amount of spin will completely erase what it shows. Your best option is to remove the leverage entirely." "How?" "Make the source unreliable. Get him arrested. Discredit him before he can release anything. If he's facing criminal charges, assault on you, for example, his credibility is destroyed. The video becomes the evidence of a man with a vendetta, not a smoking gun of your guilt." Blackwell leaned forward. "How do we get him arrested?" Gray smiled for the first time. It didn't reach his eyes. "We provoke him. We push until he snaps. And when he does, we make sure there are witnesses, police, cameras. Everything he's tried to use against you, we use against him." At Danny's insistence, Marcus had installed a police scanner in the cabin. At 10:30 p.m., it crackled to life. "All units, be advised, complaint filed at the Grand Summit Lodge. Subject is a former guest, Richard Blackwell, claiming harassment and stalking by Elena Reyes and her brother, Marcus Reyes, requesting patrol check wellness and take statements." Marcus's blood ran cold. He's filing a complaint against Elena. Danny was already on his laptop, fingers flying. This is chess, not checkers. He's building a paper trail. Every complaint, every police report, it all becomes evidence that you're the aggressor. "He just re-entered the county," Marcus said, his mind racing. "He flew back specifically to do this. Why? What's his endgame? Control? He wants you arrested. He wants the video suppressed as evidence in a criminal case. He wants—" Danny stopped, his expression darkening. "Oh, that's clever. If you're facing charges, you can't testify against him. The video becomes fruit of the poisonous tree. Inadmissible. Marcus's phone rang. Elena, her voice panicked. Marcus, the police are here, at the resort. They're asking about you, about whether you've been harassing Blackwell. What do I tell them? Tell them the truth, show them your shoulder, tell them you were assaulted. I'm coming there now. No. Elena's voice was sharp. That's what he wants. He wants you here, angry, confrontational. Don't give him that. She was right. Marcus forced himself to breathe, to think tactically. Okay, you talk to the police. Be calm, be factual. I'll stay here. But, Elena, record everything. Use your phone. Record the conversation. I will. Be safe. Hermano. The line went dead. Danny looked at Marcus. She's smart. She's terrified. Marcus paced the small cabin, Ranger tracking his movements with concerned eyes. He's escalating. He knows he's losing control of the narrative, so he's trying to flip it. Make me the villain. So we need to flip it back, harder. Danny pulled up a new screen. Remember that SEC investigation? I've been digging. Blackwell didn't just commit insider trading. He did it through a shell company that's been flagged for potential money laundering. If the right people knew that, we can't just leak classified financial data, Marcus said. No, but we can make sure the right journalist asks the right questions. Danny was already typing. I know a guy at the Wall Street Journal. Owes me a favor. If I give him a tip, nothing concrete, just a direction to look, he'll dig. And when he finds what we found, that's not us. That's investigative journalism. Marcus stopped pacing. Do it. By midnight, the situation had crystallized into a cold war of attrition. Blackwell was in town, holed up in a luxury rental property on the mountain. He'd filed formal complaints with the sheriff's department, claiming harassment and threats. He'd hired Mr. Gray and his security consultants to document Marcus's movements. Marcus, for his part, had circled the wagons. Elena was safe at her apartment with Danny standing watch. Ranger was on high alert, his training kicking in as he patrolled the cabin's perimeter. And Marcus himself was in full operator mode, calm, focused, and 3 steps ahead. The next morning, Sheriff Deputy Ramirez returned to Marcus's cabin. This time, she wasn't alone. With her was Sheriff Tom Hackett, a grizzled man in his 60s with the tired eyes of someone who'd seen too much small-town drama. Mr. Reyes, Hackett said, his voice neutral, we need to talk about Richard Blackwell. Of course, Sheriff. Come in. They sat at Marcus's small kitchen table. Ranger lay nearby, watchful but calm. Mr. Blackwell has filed multiple complaints, Hackett began. He claims you threatened him at the Grand Summit Lodge, that you've been stalking him, that your sister has been harassing him at his place of business. None of that is true, Sheriff. Marcus's voice was calm, respectful. Mr. Blackwell assaulted my sister 2 days ago. I have video evidence. I intervened to protect her. Since then, he sent private investigators to my property, attempted to have my sister fired, and now he's filing false complaints to intimidate us. Hackett studied him. You're military. Yes, sir. Navy SEAL. Currently on leave. And you have this video? Marcus nodded to Danny, who pulled it up on his laptop. Hackett and Ramirez watched in silence. When it ended, Ramirez's expression was hard as stone. That's assault, she said flatly, and animal cruelty. Yes, ma'am, Marcus said. My sister chose not to press charges initially because she was afraid of losing her job, but now Mr. Blackwell is retaliating. He's trying to silence us through intimidation. Hackett leaned back in his chair. This is a mess. Yes, sir, it is. But here's the thing, Mr. Reyes. Blackwell is rich. He's connected. He's got lawyers who can tie this county up in litigation for years. I believe you. I believe your sister. But unless she's willing to press charges officially, my hands are tied. What if she does press charges? Then I arrest him for assault. But his lawyers will have him out in hours, and they'll file countercharges, false imprisonment, assault on their client, meaning you. It'll be a legal nightmare. Marcus nodded slowly. So, what do you suggest, Sheriff? Hackett met his eyes. I suggest you and your sister stay out of trouble. Don't engage with Blackwell. Don't give him any ammunition. Let the system work. The system, Marcus said quietly, didn't stop him from kicking my sister while she was on the ground protecting a puppy. Hackett's jaw tightened. No, it didn't, and I'm sorry for that. But vigilante justice isn't the answer. I'm not looking for vigilante justice, Sheriff. I'm looking for actual justice. After the sheriff left, Danny turned to Marcus. He's not wrong. Blackwell has home court advantage here, money, lawyers, connections. Then we change the court. Marcus pulled out his phone. I need to make a call. He dialed a number he'd hoped never to use. It rang twice before a crisp, professional voice answered. NCIS Regional Office. How may I direct your call? This is Petty Officer First Class Marcus Reyes, SEAL Team 3. I need to report a civilian assault on a family member and subsequent witness intimidation. The subject is attempting to use his financial resources to suppress military testimony. There was a pause. Hold, please, Petty Officer Reyes. Danny's eyes widened. You just kicked this up to the federal level. Yes, I did. Marcus's voice was grim. Blackwell wanted to play hardball. He's about to learn what hardball actually looks like. CTA number 2, insert here. If this story has you on the edge of your seat, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss stories like this. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more incredible true stories of courage and loyalty. The NCIS agent arrived in Pinewood Ridge 36 hours later. Her name was Special Agent Victoria Cross, and she was everything Richard Blackwell's expensive lawyers were not. Efficient, unimpressed by money, and armed with federal authority that superseded local jurisdiction. She interviewed Elena first, documenting her injuries, reviewing the video evidence, and taking a statement that was calm, detailed, and damning. Then she interviewed Marcus, Ranger sitting quietly at his feet throughout. Mr. Blackwell's legal team has been calling our office, Agent Cross said, her expression neutral. They're claiming this is a vindictive prosecution by a mentally unstable veteran. I'm on psychological leave, not mentally unstable, Marcus said calmly, and the evidence speaks for itself. It does. Cross closed her notebook, which is why I'll be arresting Mr. Blackwell this afternoon for assault and battery on a federal witness, your sister, and for witness intimidation. The video evidence is clear. His subsequent harassment of you both constitutes obstruction. He has powerful lawyers, Elena said quietly. Yes, he does, but I have the United States government. Cross stood. Mr. Reyes, Miss Reyes, this isn't over. His legal team will fight this, but they'll be fighting in federal court now, not local. That changes everything. At 4 p.m., Special Agent Cross, accompanied by 2 federal marshals, arrived at Richard Blackwell's rental property. He was in the middle of a conference call with his crisis management team when the knock came. Richard Blackwell, Cross said, showing her credentials. You're under arrest for assault and battery under 18 U.S. Code, Bureau 111, and witness intimidation under 18 U.S. Code, paragraph 1512. You have the right to remain silent. Blackwell's face went from shock to rage to pale terror in the space of 30 seconds. This is insane. I'm the victim here. That man threatened me. Sir, you have the right to remain silent. I suggest you use it. As Blackwell was led away in handcuffs, his lawyer, Martin Shaw, was already on the phone, mobilizing an army of legal firepower. But for the first time in his life, Richard Blackwell realized that money wasn't going to be enough. He'd picked a fight with the wrong family. The news broke that evening. Local stations picked it up first. Tech CEO arrested on federal charges, but within hours it had gone national. The Wall Street Journal, tipped off by Danny's journalist contact, published a scathing expose on Blackwell's financial dealings, including the SEC investigation and the shell company questions. By morning, Blackwell's company's stock had dropped 18%. By afternoon, his board of directors had called an emergency meeting. By evening, Richard Blackwell had been placed on administrative leave from his own company. At the cabin, Marcus sat on the porch with Elena, Sonny curled between them, Ranger lying at their feet. The autumn sun was setting, painting the mountains in shades of gold and crimson. "It's really over?" Elena asked quietly. "The legal part? That'll take months. But the threat to you? Yes, it's over. He'll hate us forever. Probably." Marcus looked at his sister. "But he'll never touch you again. That's what matters." Elena leaned against his shoulder, careful of her still-healing injury. "How did you know? How did you know what to do?" "I didn't. Not all of it." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "But I knew one thing for certain. No one hurts my family, not while I'm breathing." Sonny yawned, his tiny jaws stretching wide, then burrowed deeper into Elena's lap. The puppy's ribs were healing. His breathing was strong. He was going to be okay. They all were. 3 months later, Richard Blackwell stood in a federal courtroom in Denver, his expensive suit unable to hide the defeated slump of his shoulders. His legal team had fought brilliantly, but the evidence was overwhelming. The video, Elena's testimony, Marcus's calm, professional recounting of events, even Vincent Krause, Blackwell's own head of security, had turned state's witness after being offered immunity. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s named Judge Patricia Morrison, read the verdict with no trace of sympathy. "Mr. Blackwell, you have been found guilty of assault and battery under federal law and of witness intimidation. The court sentences you to 18 months in federal prison to be followed by 3 years of supervised probation. You will also pay restitution to Miss Elena Reyes in the amount of $250,000 for medical expenses, lost wages, and emotional distress." Blackwell's lawyer immediately stood. "Your Honor, my client wishes to appeal. Your client may appeal if he wishes, but the sentence stands." Judge Morrison fixed Blackwell with a hard stare. "Mr. Blackwell, you believed your wealth and position placed you above consequences. This court has demonstrated that you were wrong. Bailiff, please remand the defendant into custody." As Blackwell was led away, Elena sat in the gallery between Marcus and Danny, tears streaming down her face. Not tears of sadness, tears of relief, of vindication, of justice finally served. Outside the courthouse, a small crowd of reporters waited. Special Agent Cross gave a brief statement, praising the courage of victims who stand up to their abusers regardless of wealth or power. Elena declined to comment, but Marcus spoke briefly, his voice calm and clear. My sister is one of the bravest people I know. She protected an innocent life even when it cost her everything. That's heroism, real heroism, and I'm proud of her." 6 months after the trial, Marcus's leave officially ended. He reported back to his team in Virginia Beach, where he was greeted with the usual SEAL combination of insults and genuine affection. "Heard you started a war with a billionaire," his team leader said, grinning. "Over a puppy." "My sister's puppy," Marcus corrected. "And I'd do it again." "No doubt." The team leader's expression sobered. "How are you doing? Really?" Marcus considered the question. 6 months ago he'd been a wreck, unable to sleep, unable to find peace, haunted by missions that had gone wrong. But something had changed during those weeks in Colorado. Protecting Elena, training Sonny, standing up to a bully. It had reminded him why he'd become a SEAL in the first place. Not for the combat, for the protection. To stand between the innocent and those who would harm them. "I'm good," Marcus said, and he meant it. He flew back to Colorado one more time before deploying. Elena met him at the airport, and with her was Sonny, no longer a fragile puppy, but a strong, healthy, 6-month-old golden retriever with a tail that never stopped wagging. The moment Sonny saw Marcus, he went ballistic with joy, nearly pulling Elena off her feet. Marcus crouched down, and the dog crashed into him, licking his face, his whole body wiggling. "Hey, buddy, look at you, big and strong." "He remembers you," Elena said, smiling. "Every time someone knocks on the door, he runs to it, hoping it's you." They spent the afternoon at Elena's new apartment, a nicer place, paid for with the restitution money. She'd also started online classes for a business degree. The double-shift exhaustion was gone from her face, replaced by hope. "I've been thinking," Elena said as they sat on her small balcony, watching the mountains, "about starting a rescue for dogs like Sonny, ones that are sick or injured or discarded. I have the money now to do it right." "That's perfect," Marcus said. "You'd be great at it." "Would you help? When you're on leave?" "Always." As Marcus prepared to leave that evening, he knelt one more time with Sonny. The dog sat perfectly still, sensing the goodbye. "You take care of her," Marcus said seriously, scratching behind Sonny's ears. "She saved you. Now you save her. Deal?" Sonny licked his hand, his amber eyes solemn. Marcus stood and hugged his sister tightly. "I'm proud of you. So damn proud. I learned from the best." Elena pulled back, tears on her cheeks. "Come home safe." "I will." He walked to his truck, Ranger already waiting in the passenger seat. As he drove away, he looked in the rearview mirror. Elena stood on the balcony, Sonny beside her, both of them watching until he disappeared from sight. She was safe. She was strong. She was going to be okay. And that, Marcus thought, was the only mission that truly mattered. 3 years after that autumn in Colorado, a video began circulating online. It wasn't the video of the assault. That had been sealed as part of the legal proceedings. This was something else. It was Elena, standing outside a newly constructed building with a sign that read, "Sonny's Haven Rescue." Behind her were 20 dogs of all sizes and breeds, each one saved from abandonment, abuse, or death. And beside her, grown into a magnificent 85-pound golden retriever, was Sonny himself. 3 years ago, Elena said to the camera, her voice strong and clear, "A billionaire kicked me while I was protecting this dog. He thought his money made him untouchable. He thought power meant he could hurt whoever he wanted." She paused, emotion flickering across her face. He was wrong, because my brother, a Navy SEAL, taught me that real strength isn't about how much money you have or how many people you can intimidate. Real strength is about standing up for those who can't stand up for themselves. It's about protecting the innocent, even when it costs you everything. The camera panned to show the rescue facility, spacious kennels, a veterinary clinic, a training area. This rescue exists because of courage. My brother's courage. The courage of agents and investigators who believe justice matters, and the courage of every person who's ever said no to a bully, even when they were scared. Elena crouched down, wrapping her arms around Sonny. The dog leaned into her, radiating peace and trust. If you're watching this and you're facing something hard, an abusive boss, a violent partner, someone who thinks they're untouchable, please know this: you're not alone. There are people who will stand with you. There are systems that work, even if they're slow, and there is always, always hope. She stood, looking directly into the camera. Heroes walk among us. They're not always in uniform. Sometimes they're the person who speaks up at work, the neighbor who calls the police, the friend who says, "I believe you." But sometimes, her voice caught, sometimes they're a brother who drops everything to protect his sister, and a loyal dog who refuses to let evil win. The video ended with a simple message. If this story touched you, share it. Be someone's hero, stand up, speak out, protect the innocent. The world needs more courage. Be the courage. Within a week, the video had been viewed 18 million times. Donations poured into Sonny's haven from across the country. Elena was invited to speak at conferences about entrepreneurship and overcoming adversity. And Richard Blackwell, still serving his sentence in federal prison, saw the video on the prison's communal TV and realized with bitter finality that he hadn't just lost a legal battle. He'd lost the only thing that had ever really mattered: his legacy. Meanwhile, on a classified base somewhere in the Middle East, Marcus Reyes sat in a dusty tent, cleaning his gear after a successful mission. His phone buzzed. A rare satellite connection. It was a text from Elena, just 3 words and a photo. 20 dogs saved. The photo showed Elena surrounded by rescue dogs, Sonny at her side, her smile radiant. Marcus allowed himself a rare, genuine smile. Ranger, lying at his feet, lifted his head as if sensing his handler's mood shift. "She's okay, boy," Marcus said quietly. Mission accomplished. And in that moment, in that dusty tent halfway around the world, Marcus Reyes felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not the absence of war, not the silence of trauma, but the peace that comes from knowing you fought for something that mattered, that you stood up when it counted, that you protected the innocent and made the world just a little bit safer for the people you love. That was the peace worth fighting for. That was the mission that never ends. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs to be reminded that heroes still exist. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and let us know in the comments. What was your favorite moment? Was it Ranger's loyalty, Marcus's protection, or Elena's courage? We read every comment. God bless, and see you in the next story.